Chapala and neighboring Ajijic. Now, I learned a lot about these two places, as well as I learned a little about myself in the process. One thing that I misunderstood about Chapala and Ajijic is it's not really so much a vacation destination as much as it is a retirement place. It's thriving right now for North Americans. And I can see why. You know, it took me about 3 days. Normally when I visit a new city in Mexico, I walk the town, and my pace is pretty quick. I walk fast because it cuts down on travel time, and it's good exercise. But after about 3 days in Chapala, I recognized, hey, I'm walking kind of slow here. What gives? And yeah, it just kind of happens to you. It's a slow pace. The town's a slow pace. There's a lot of retired folk. They all walk slow, and I wasn't digging it. And I don't know, maybe it's because there's a lot of cobblestone streets. You really have to be mindful of where you're walking. And I recognize that it's more a retirement location by the questions that people ask. For example, I'm sitting in a restaurant, and by the way, the people that live there are so nice, they're so friendly and helpful. They really look out after each other. And it won't be long before, if I'm sitting alone, I'm invited to a table by another couple, by a group of people. They're really pretty friendly there. And typically the first question that they ask me is, how long have you lived here? Or normally I'm used to, where are you from? So yeah, I don't live here. Oh, you're visiting someone? No. Vacationers typically come from people from Guadalajara, the Mexican nationals. I stayed in a Airbnb called Casa Morelos, and it was in the middle of the local neighborhood, and I really enjoyed it. The Airbnb was nice, and there were small little restaurants with, you know, just 2 tables in there where it was family run. The laundromat, the lavanderia, was a block away. Everything was right there. A barber across the street. If I wanted to get my nails done, right across the street. The only thing you have to be mindful of is the neighborhood noise. I have to say, you all might already know this, but people in Mexico, they have a higher tolerance for noise than us gringos, for me especially. For example, I think I mentioned this before, but when your fire alarm battery goes low and there's that chirping that goes on, drives me crazy. They go about their day like it's not even on. The neighborhood dogs are up and chirpy bright in the morning. They'll flare up some firecrackers any time of the day. And the local businesses, for example, you know, gas. We take it for granted in the United States. You know, you turn this knob here and the gas comes on and off. In Mexico, you buy it by the tank. So there are companies that will ride around in a pickup truck with gas tanks behind them, and they'll sell it to the neighborhood. And typically they'll be broadcasting a jingle like the one you're seeing in the video here. But my favorite's when they just put a guy in the back with the tanks and they'll call out, "Ghost!" I'll tell you what I like about Chapala, and I like this part a lot, is, and I apologize up front because a lot of these things that I like have to do with booze. There's a couple restaurants on the Malecon that sell, well, they don't sell, they offer free margaritas. Yes, you heard right, free margaritas. Refills. It's like tea. And they're good. You buy a meal and they'll offer you a free margarita to your liking. I even requested a bump up in tequila quality and they didn't charge. They didn't charge me. So yeah, you guys, I think that alone is worth coming to Chapala. Let's see, for refill margaritas. Casa del Mocajete is one of them. And right next door is Isla Consumel. They both serve margaritas for free. I would favorite Casa del Mocajete because their mocajetes are awesome, and the quality of food and the quality of service is much better. So, but you know, if they're closed, I'll take the other just as well.
Buenas tardes, amigo. ¿Alguna cooperación? Para los dolores de papá.
I found Ajijic to be a lot more interesting for me personally. First of all, there are horses that just are walking down the streets. They have riders, but just the sound, that echoing sound of hoofs on a cobblestone road, there's something that's just great about that, something romantic about that. I really enjoyed that. Also, I found it to be interesting. In most Mexican cities, the further out you get from the center of the tourist area, the poorer it becomes. In Ajijic, it's different. It's opposite because you've got a lot of North Americans coming to retire and they're buying homes up in the hills. So the further out you get, the nicer the homes get. But it's beautiful. I love Ajijic. It's such a colorful town. There are 2 restaurants that I really enjoyed. So if you're in Ajijic, you got to check these places out. The first one is on the Malecon. It's called Maria Isabel. The service there was very friendly. The food was good. I've been there 2 times, 4 months apart. The menu changed, but the food was still good on both menus. I really enjoyed this place. You could eat either indoors or out, and the drinks are good. The other place I just stumbled onto, it's called the Peacock. I went to this place 4 months ago, and I just peeked in. And it's one of those places where I thought, ooh, that's a restaurant. That looks pretty nice in there. And I wandered in. A nice gentleman, a waiter approached me, convinced me to go have a margarita. There we go. On a nice shaded table over there. And the place was enormous, not the building. This is all outdoors, but you're surrounded by beautiful tropical trees, and it's very serene and quiet. Although a lot of the mariachis and the trios come in and they play beautifully for you while you're having a drink or you are eating. And this place was memorable for me because I asked for a margarita and I said, I want you to make it strong, please. And the waiter brings it out, he sets it on the table, and he says, this margarita has a name. It's called Cuatro Cuadras. And I thought, that's 4 blocks. Why is a margarita called 4 blocks? He tells me, because if you drink 4, you'll have difficulty walking 4 blocks. But it was good. I only had 2, so I was safe. But this place is interesting though, because while I enjoyed it a lot, we all have our favorite YouTubers that most of you have your favorite YouTubers that you watch. One of mine is a couple that travels Mexico. They're called Tangerine Travels. If you haven't checked them out, they've been practically everywhere in Mexico and they've been doing it a while. So I'll leave a link for them in the description below. But I was watching one of their videos and they're in this place that looked real familiar to me. I thought, oh my God, that place has got peacocks roaming around and I've been there. Why weren't there peacocks when I was there? So I had to go back, and sure enough, they kind of hide in the shrubs for some reason that day. I don't know why. They were kind of shy, but yeah, it's great. The Peacock Restaurant, you need to check that one out. I stayed in a hotel called Nueva Posada, And it's an old building. There's no elevator, so if you have limited mobility, it may not be the place for you. It's pretty close to everything, but just being inside the room and the lobby and the restaurant, they also have an outdoor restaurant. You just want to take pictures of everything. It's so beautiful. The Nueva Posada. Now, would I retire in Chapala or Ajijic? I don't know. I mean, everybody that I talk to absolutely love it there. For me, as I mentioned before, I'm more of a beach person, so I like to be someplace nearby where I can hear the ocean. Also, I'm a little concerned for the area because the people that I spoke with that have been there for years, decades, they stress their concern about the population, it being overpopulated. The amount of people is not the problem, it's the traffic. There's only one carretera, there's only one highway from Chapala to Guadalajara, and already it's kind of, there's a lot of traffic. But can you imagine in 10 years, the pace that place is growing? It's going to be nearly impossible to get from here to there without it doubling your time. So yeah, a little concerned about that. Thank you everyone once again for watching my videos. It's on to Oaxaca to watch the celebration of El Dia de los Muertos, and then on to Puerto Morelos. I want to give a special shout out to my Patreon members and my sponsors. Thank you very much for allowing me to continue this adventure with the Timeless Travel Club. So one of the last things that I learned while in Ajijic, I was walking the streets once again, and I noticed that all of the residents were all in their doorways, and they were all looking the same direction, and it looked odd. I couldn't figure it out. So I asked one of them, "What's going on here? Why is everybody looking over there?" And she told me one of our neighborhood residents had passed away, and his funeral procession was on its way down the road, and we're all out to pay our respects. So it was quite an interesting sight. I waited around, and sure enough, the funeral procession came by with joyous music, and there were Mexicans and North Americans alike in the procession, and I followed along for a little bit without being intrusive, but I'd never seen that before in the Mexican culture, but it was quite incredible.